When I turned 50, I started to notice these little things. Like, where are my reading glasses? What was that sound? Why did I walk into this room? Oh yeah, to get something from here. I have no idea how long it took me to find it. Sometimes it was only a few minutes. Other times I was searching for hours. It was the same story with names. I'd meet someone and think, that's a nice couple. How do you know? I knew them years ago. Oh yeah, where are they now? I have no idea. And then the other person would say, what was your name again? It didn't matter how much I thought about it. The name was stuck in the back of my head like it was behind glass, but I couldn't see through it. And it wasn't just names. Things I used to do every day without thinking were suddenly harder, like changing a tire or trimming the bushes around the driveway. I'm not going to complain about any of this because everyone gets older and faces these challenges. But when it started happening to me, my first thought was, well, I guess this is just getting older. But here's what I discovered that changed everything. Our brains don't stop growing. Thanks to something called neuroplasticity, we can keep building new neural connections well into our 60s, 70s, and beyond. In fact, we could keep growing new brain cells throughout our entire lives. I bet you didn't know that, huh? There are several ways we can tap into neuroplasticity, and one of the most powerful ones involves art and creativity. Now, let me tell you about my friend Sarah. Sarah is 2 years younger than me, so she turned 50 in the year 2000. We both worked for the same company, but in different departments. For many years, we were just friendly acquaintances. Then, we both reached retirement age and left the company. It was only then that we began spending time together outside of work. One day, she invited me to come over and see something she'd been working on. She was painting a watercolor landscape, and I could see right away that she was very talented. As I looked at each stroke, I thought to myself, I'd love to be able to do that. A few weeks later, I went to visit her again, and I noticed that the painting she was working on was very different from the one I'd seen before. So, how's the painting coming along? It's coming along, she said, but this one's really challenging. I asked her why. There's so much detail. There's the reflection of the lights in the water. The trees are hard too. They're supposed to look like they're swaying in the wind. And the shadows are throwing me off too. We ended up talking for hours that day, and I walked away feeling inspired. A few days later, she invited me to join her at an art class at the community college. She said it was a great group of people, and I should join them. I thought, why not? I signed up, and I soon found myself sitting in a classroom surrounded by easels. As the instructor demonstrated techniques and showed us what materials to use, I noticed that he was doing it all left-handed. He was left-handed and using his right hand to hold the demo pieces. Do I need to draw left-handed? I asked him. Nope, you just need to try it your way. He smiled at me and said, you'll figure it out. With that bit of encouragement, I grabbed some paper, a pencil and eraser and tried to recreate the drawing he'd just shown us. I'm not gonna lie, it was awkward at first. I was having trouble seeing the whole picture because I was focusing on small details and my proportions were off. But over the next hour, things started to click. I relaxed and got into the process of creating. By the end of class, I was surprised at what I'd created. Over the next few months, Sarah and I started taking classes together almost every day. We learned about perspective, color, composition, and basic design. We also spent a lot of time figuring out how to mix paint and how to get certain colors. Oftentimes, we would spend the night just talking about art, and then we'd go home and try to replicate the paintings we'd seen during the day. I'll admit that there were times when my paintings were a total disaster, and there were other times when I was proud of what I'd done. You know what was amazing, though? Every single time I sat down to paint, my mind felt sharper than it had the day before. I was paying attention to all the details around me, and I noticed that I was remembering things better, too. In fact, it got so bad that I couldn't remember stuff from before I started painting. I'd be walking around the house and think, did I pay that bill? Did I send that email? I'd even ask my wife, hey, did I pay that bill? And she'd look at me like I was crazy and say, what bill? We're not even due yet. I realized I was so focused on all the little things with my painting, I was noticing details that others missed. But sometimes it would make me feel anxious too. For example, I started to notice all the cars that had the same model parked in front of my house. I had no idea how many of those cars were there before, but now I counted them every day, which made me wonder if my neighbors were watching me too. Now, I want to be clear. This isn't about blaming art for making me paranoid. Instead, I'm pointing out that there's a potential downside to tapping into our brain's neuroplasticity through art. In other words, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. Here's what I mean. Sure, noticing things is a good thing. It means that your mind is engaged, but obsessing over those things can become a problem. Sarah experienced this too. She became so concerned that she might forget something important that she started making endless lists. She even carried a notebook around with her everywhere she went. Although it helped her feel more organized, it also became a distraction because she would spend so much time writing things down that she wasn't fully present. Eventually, Sarah and I both found a balance that worked for us. We decided to keep up with the art classes, but we stopped making lists and embraced the little things we forgot. If you're thinking about exploring the benefits of neuroplasticity through art, here's what I suggest. Choose an activity that brings you joy. It could be anything from painting, dancing, writing, or learning an instrument. It doesn't matter what you choose as long as you enjoy it. Also, don't worry about being good at it. Just have fun. The goal isn't to become a master artist. It's to engage your brain in a creative way. And here's a bonus tip. Find someone else to share the journey with. Having a friend to encourage you makes all the difference. Now, let me tell you about a study that was conducted at Boston University. Researchers wanted to know if older adults could improve their memory by learning a new skill. The participants were divided into 3 groups. One group learned to play bridge, another took up ballroom dancing, and the third group didn't learn anything. They served as the control group. At the beginning of the study, all the groups performed about the same on memory tests. But after several months, the bridge and dance groups showed significant improvements in their memory and cognitive abilities compared to the control group. Another study conducted at Northwestern University had similar results. Here's what they did. 198 healthy adults aged 60 and above participated in a 6-month program where they engaged in various activities such as singing, drumming, poetry writing, and visual arts. Their cognitive function was evaluated using neuropsychological tests. The researchers discovered that these older adults experienced enhanced cognitive function, demonstrating improvements in episodic and working memory, attention, processing speed, and executive functioning. You might be wondering, okay, great, but how does this actually help me? Well, let me explain. Engaging in creative activities can stimulate the growth of new brain cells, especially in areas crucial for memory and cognitive function. It's like giving your brain a workout, but instead of lifting weights, you're lifting your paintbrush or guitar. So the next time you find yourself saying, "I wish I had paid more attention in school," or "I wish I had learned that earlier," remember, it's never too late. Embrace the journey of learning and discovery. Give it a try, and you'll be amazed at what your brain can still accomplish.